Appreciate it. The beer and the wine and all that and the space. We love it. All right, who's ready to hear about the topic today? I have with me Cristen Justiss and Jesse Bookstrom. Was it close? How many times am I going to fail that? All right, so today we're talking about the power of influence in the sales process and how important it is to be able to communicate effectively in today's market with today's buyers. One of the things that we notice is that some people go into the sale and they kind of rush it. They're rushing to the conversation, they're not presenting themselves in a way that is resonating for the client. So what we really want to do is get from these two experts what they're doing in their sales process that's different and powerful, that makes your teams successful. So my first question is, I feel like we're doing the dating game. What should salespeople be doing to better prepare themselves for their buyers?
It's a good question. I'll just take a quick second and apologize to everyone. I know the lady who was supposed to be here is much more interesting. He got stuck with the B squad, so I'll try to do my best. So what should salespeople be doing more of?
Better with today's new age buyers.
Better with today's new age buyers. So one thing that I really feel is if you're going to be working on an enterprise sales and it's worth it, right? Like it's a deal that you vetted out, it's a prospect who is, could be meaningful to your business. It's really important that you put in the time before your initial outreach to find something relevant to them, whether it's a tweet, an article that they've written or been quoted in, a YouTube video, a panel like this that they've partaken in, where you can find a tidbit that makes your email stand out and it's more relevant. They're more likely to respond in the initial outreach because these people are busy. They get a ton of cold prospecting emails, and most of them, for lack of a better word, are just crap. So if you take the time to write a good one and you make it relevant to them personally, you're going to see a lot more responses, which is the name of the game.
Excellent, thank you for that. What are you saying?
What Jesse said. No. I know I can't do that. I said I was going to do that the whole evening. I know I'm not doing that. So I actually used to be a special education teacher. My degree is in teaching. I was a teacher for 4.5 years, and I segued into sales. And a lot of people think that that is a huge transition, but it is not. Sales should be teaching. I don't understand why people overcomplicate the process of sales. It doesn't need to be something other than empathy and just a natural care about other people's needs. So I think we need to take a step back from all of these sales trainings and all of these books that we're reading and all of these guidelines that we need to follow and just really take time to care about the person that you're talking to, genuinely care. Because there's a difference between taking what Jesse said, which is so important, and getting to know them and finding out things about them that are differentiators that are important to them. There's a difference between that and Googling and going, oh, I saw last week you went to an Eagles game. Eagles are awesome. Go Eagles. Like, that's so topical. So to get down to the things that are more important to that individual, to let them know that you know about them. I noticed that you're one of the top workplaces to be at in Philly or wherever you are for the last 3 years. That employee engagement is so important to you. I want to talk to you more about that. What are you doing there that's different? And asking a lot of questions. Most of the calls I'm on, they don't even know what Beyond Pay does until the end, and I think that's when they're like, wait a second, we don't even know what this person is doing because they've been so busy talking to me about what I need. So that's something I think that really needs to change. I started doing it and I kept being told to stop taking my process and making it one where I was so empathetic. I kept being told that I needed to refine it, make my calls shorter, stop giving the prospect more of my time. And I really pushed back against that and disagreed. And it's finally coming back full circle where I'm seeing that people want that type of sales experience. The buyer's journey that we're all quite familiar with. And if you're not, Google it. I'm not going to call you out if you don't know what it is. My team better know what the buyer's journey is. You're in big trouble if you don't. So check it out if you don't know what that is. But it's taking the buyer's experience, taking that into account rather than being sales heavy. You're not prospecting, you're not focused on what your product is, but rather what their needs are. And then be honest if your solution is not gonna cater to their needs. If it's a lateral move, why are you having that conversation? Move on to somebody that needs you. So, yes.
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 Kaboom!
So one of the things that resonated for me here is that you're taking a longer time in the process and really asking about them, their needs, their experience in this workplace. You're in a highly competitive market, correct? So does it ever come up that when you're sitting there and you're exploring these, what feels like things that are not about business, does it ever come up like, well, what are we doing here? Like, what is it that you do, and how early does that happen for you guys, that you start to continue to, you don't care that they're asking about the business, you're just trying to learn more about theirs?
So I think it segues naturally, but it has to happen in a way that's comfortable in conversation. And I joke with my team that, and this is probably not the most appropriate thing to say, but I'm going to say it, and I'm sorry for the people that are live. But I don't understand why sales need to be much different than dating. When you're dating and you're doing it with someone that you actually want to be with, you're not going to talk about yourself too much, because that's just not attractive. And if you do that, you're probably single. And I'm not saying that everybody here that's single is doing that. So, but what I'm saying is it should be a process at which when they talk about something that they need and you have a solution, or you have something that you want to contribute to the conversation because you relate or you understand, there's a time to do it and put that information in there without coming off as salesy. And I sometimes struggle with that. I think that's a natural thing where someone, I was listening to a call the other day, someone saying, we need recruitment and applicant tracking, and I know you guys do payroll, but we need this, this, and this. And in the call, I was saying, yes, yes. When I wanted to say, yeah, we do that, yep, check, got it, we're the best for you, yeah. But instead, I kind of slowed that down a bit and was just listening to them and being receptive to what they needed, and waited for the opportunity to say, I understand what your needs are, and I look forward to sharing our solution with you and fulfilling those areas that you need support in.
Right, so you're not leading with, you guys aren't leading with the weather report. This is our company,
Right.
this is what we do. This
No.
is, so you're taking
They can Google that.
and-
Yeah, that's the thing, is there's so, yeah. There's so many resources now when you get on the phone, most likely. I mean, the last Philly Enterprise Sales Forum, that's what we talked about. There are so many resources for them to already know you. So don't necessarily go in assuming they know everything about you, but go in not expecting that you have to just read your match profile. So to say, they know a snippet, they have an idea, but differentiate yourself by caring about them first rather than jumping in and talking about yourself.
That's awesome. Anybody have any questions around this? Comments? Yes, sir.
You're kind of talking about humanizing a sale, right? So I guess, how do you do that in an impactful way in a short time span?
Jesse.
It's a good question, and it's really sort of key. At least something that I always try to do, whether it's in writing an email, an introductory call, a follow-up call, a meeting, face-to-face, whatever it is like you really want them to know you're human, right? And so I'll even use like slang, like I'm a Philly guy, like I have a Philly accent, I use Philly words. They're like, I'll put that in my email, and like, I'll put that to people who might not even be from the United States. And there's a fine line to your question, right? Like where, right, like you've never met this person, like you don't want to talk to them about like your mom, right? But happy Mother's Day, by the way, to any mothers. Like at the same point, like you do want to make sure that they know, look, you're a person. This isn't just a template that you sent them. There's a reason why you're asking for their time. And there's no silver bullet. My best advice would be just don't be yourself. Right, and don't be afraid to put that on paper, put that into an email, say something on a call that you might be uncomfortable saying, and then learn from it.
She said it was beautiful. So, look, we all have different buying personas too, that we're selling to. We all have, and each buying persona probably has a different personality, right? So, the competencies that a sales rep needs to develop, it sounds like you're saying empathy and better listening skills, really listening in a different way. So how do you incorporate that into your sales training or sales coaching in your organization?
Or any organization that you work with?
That's a good question.
Thank you, I come up with them once in a while.
Yeah, that's good. I don't think that one was on the paper.
It wasn't,
Oh,
I'm sorry.
She's challenging us with that. So I think that comes from, I'm constantly sharing with my team and with others, is when someone's talking to you, truly trying to put yourself in their shoes. I know that's a really old saying and it's so cliche, but quite literally, if you're talking to a CFO, why are you talking to the CFO about their staff and the employee engagement when most likely to the CEO or the CFO, we need to be talking about finances. So put yourself in their shoes. If you were a CEO, which some of you are, or a CFO, what matters to them, and when they're engaging with you about their areas of need, that's where you need to channel that empathy. There are plenty of times I'm on conversation or in conversations with people, and I don't understand why these pain points matter to them, because in my day-to-day, I'm not able to relate. But there's no reason why I can't feel what they're feeling, because if it's an upset to them, it should also be to me. And if I have a solution to fix that or bring a resolution to that area of need, then I have to engage in that upset that they're having. So it's not necessarily something that comes naturally with everybody. It's certainly, I mean, sometimes I'm on the phone with the director of HR. We provide HRIS and HCM technology. There are a million of beyond PACE. So our market is incredibly challenging. Everybody has to have a payroll provider, so it's very difficult to differentiate ourselves. And so I'm talking to all these different types of people in a day, but I find if I can just understand that role and what it is that they do and think about things that would upset me or cause frustration to not make me happy in that role, I can better bring a solution to their areas of need. So the person that I least likely understand is a CFO, but if I think about my bank account, the way he thinks about his company's money, I'm quickly able to empathize with him in his areas of need, like the director of HR concerned about how many hats she has to wear. I know what that feels like when I have to go from being a marketing person to a sales manager to a sales rep. I can channel that, and I think that that's something it's difficult to teach. But as I tell my team, you have to wake up every day and you have to decide that you're gonna be that person, because you can be a driverless car in sales and you will fail. You have to choose every day when you wake up to be an empathetic individual that genuinely cares about your prospects. And that is when there's gonna be a huge shift in the way that you do business and the way your prospects perceive you.
Yeah, I mean, that was a beautiful answer, and I'm sure the happy piece, like for some sales reps, is like, happy? I find out that guy's happy now, he's driven by business, right? So I think, part of what you're saying though is that you need to be courageous. There's a courageousness that you have to be able to step into the mindset of the CFO, the CEO. Even if you don't live in their world, you better understand their pain, but still be empathetic first before trying to solve. That was really brilliant. Thank you for that.
How about you, Jeff? Anything to add to that? The competencies that you see that you need to develop in your teams?
So I'm in a little bit of a different position than Cristen. So I sell a product that is highly technical and no one's ever really heard of, and we don't even have a website, and we're brand new, and we sell to really complex organizations, and we're still closing deals. And part of the reason is because we're solving a really big issue. Another part of the reason is because our team just understands why our product needs to exist. Everyone from our engineers, especially our founding team and our leaders, to our sales team. Like me personally, I started a business, I was a web publisher for 2.5 years prior to this role that failed. And now I am selling to web publishers a product that I believe would solve a lot of the inefficiencies in the current supply chain that were the reason why I failed. So to me, it's very personal. I understand these people's day-to-day, day in, day out, the troubles that they face, which then kind of makes it easier for me to not only reach out to them, but to talk to them like, look, I'm not just picking at straws here, right? The problems that I'm talking about are ones that they face every day. You gain credibility that way because they know you know what you're talking about. Like real recognize real, and if you can talk to points and you genuinely care. Like I honestly believe with every ounce in my body that what we're doing is going to make a difference in the lives of the people we're selling it to. And so if you start there, everything else kind of aligns.
I mean, it's wonderful to have that passion and that insight. And so as you grow your team though, this is your vision, you're a small group. What happens, how do you impart that on your recruits and the people that are going to be a little bit removed from, that knowing, that domain experience, that really understanding the market, maybe especially somebody that's younger, that's never been in that situation, but they have something. How do you coach them to get to that mindset that you're in?
Do you know what I'm saying?
I think I do. And there's certainly salespeople out there that are just like assassins, right? They can just, learn everything there is to know about a product, don't really have to care about it, and go out and close deals. And I've worked with many people like that. That's not necessarily what we would need at Currency. It's a tough question, right? It goes back into hiring the right people. How do you get the right candidates? So far, we've been fortunate enough that the right people have sort of been drawn to us because they sort of heard about what is going on, what we're doing, and for one reason or another, they've either had experience in the industry or have personally felt the pain that our product solves. At the end of the day, it's like, I guess you really need a good company mission, which is what we go back and forth with frequently, because some people are like, oh, it's corny to make a mission. Other people are like, no, this is what helps me, wake up every day. For us, our mission, part of an ancillary benefit of what our product solves is that you're not going to have IBM advertisements on ISIS websites directly funding terrorism. Sorry if anyone here is from IBM, it's not their fault. It's more a result of the digital supply chain. It happens. There's a lot of other brands it happens too. But things like that won't happen, and so that's like a core value that I can get behind. It's not something that everyone on our team gets jazzed up about. But you really need to find what it is in each individual that, some people, they just want to make money, right? And if that motivates them to sell your product passionately, that's cool. Whatever it is, everyone's different. But you got to make sure that there is something there that motivates them.
Yeah, and I think you really hit the nail on the head, is that the mission and the vision has to be translated effectively. It has to really be set in stone so that people can put a stake in that. Yeah, we all want to make money, we're in sales. But there is something about really understanding that there's something bigger than just the revenue. It's really about the change and the impact on the other people's lives that's going to be the end user. So I think that was really a great insight. Thank you so much. All right, I'm done here. Does anybody have any questions? I mean, at this point, somebody...
Jeff?
Do you have any insights, questions?
Sure.
Sure.
Tossing it, I don't want to break it, it's not mine.
Do you think there's a difference in the way millennials purchase than people who are non-millennials?
You take it first.
I think it depends on what they're buying. So like consumer goods, absolutely. When it comes to sort of high touch, non-commodities that you're purchasing, I think it's really just humans buying a certain way, right? Like they're going to evaluate, if they're going to have to explain a purchase to a superior, right, they're going to want to make sure they know the answers to the questions that they're going to have to face. So I'd say yes and no. But again, I'm no expert when it comes to like consumer goods or anything like that.
Definitely noticed a shift. It's happened within the last few months. A lot of organizations that had the directors of HR that had been there for 30 years, who had done things a certain way for a long time, or the CFOs who had been doing things a certain way since the company started. They're shifting those individuals out, and they're getting those people that wake up with that fire in them, that are passionate straight out of college, millennials. And those people are incredible. Definitely more tech savvy. So those are the individuals that when I go into, and again, we're kind of like making mass statements here. By no means, my grandma's 90 and she can rock her jitterbug phone So she's got it going on. So I'm not saying that all people that are, older aren't great with technology.
Yeah, watch it.
However, I'm noticing
Watch it. Watch
that
it.
the millennials are coming in with more confidence in knowing who they're evaluating than the individuals before them. So when I go into a call, 9 times out of 10, they already know HCM, HRIS, ACA, FMLA, all those acronyms that I typically would have to explain to someone in the industry a couple years ago. They now come in knowing that, and I bore them really quick if I try to explain what those acronyms mean for workforce compliance. So I have to be prepared on my toes to give answers.
You had to explain that to me.
Yeah.
So
In evaluating.
I'm Kristen's customer, which just shows you how good she is.
So Currency is a customer of Beyond Pay, and Cristen was my point of contact when we were making that decision and evaluation process, and she's great. But I'm a millennial, and you definitely had to explain that stuff to me.
True. So it just depends. It definitely just depends. So just a lot of times I'm finding, and favorite client. This is why we moved from the WeWork in Northern Liberties over here, just so I could stalk him. Not my favorite client, I have other favorite clients. But it just seems like people are coming in now having done more research because people are more accessible. I mean, you can Google my name and you can find me on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Beyond Pay's website. So it's just a different selling experience because most likely they're coming in fully locked and loaded with more information than I noticed people were accessing 6 months to a year ago.
Any other questions from the field? Come on, somebody's got one?
Yeah, have you ever been in a situation where you're making a sale and all of a sudden,
The question for him.
have you ever been in a situation where you're making a sale and all of a sudden the tides are turning and things look like they're going wrong? How do you save that?
One of my team members is behind you, and I have another one over there, and their faces were like, "Oh yeah, this happens all the time." Yeah. So by no means is my process of being a salesperson making me successful in all sales. It's still sales. So I still have the prospect that loves me and has presented our solution, and it is fulfilling every area of need, and then they go silent, and it's devastating. And to this day, I'm still told to not be so emotionally involved in the sales process to where when I lose one, I'm upset. I don't believe in that. I think you need to take a second to feel that so you can learn from it, because it sucks. And if you're not feeling that, then you were not emotionally engaged enough in your prospect and you didn't genuinely care about them. So I typically, what I'll do in that process of grieving is I will send, being dramatic of course, I'll send a couple emails, a couple phone calls. Typically a handwritten note goes a long way. It really makes them feel bad. Let me tell you, you send a handwritten note, stamp, and literally don't print a label. You write their name on the front of that envelope and you send it with your business card because they must have forgotten who you were, right? And at that point, then what we've been trying is I have someone else on the team reach out, and I'm finding that's been successful. Unfortunately, when someone sometimes chooses to go in a different direction because of the emotional connection that they had with you, they feel bad to break up. So they'll divulge that to someone else on the team, but they don't want to do it to the person that they established a relationship with. So I would encourage you to continue trying to reach out. I have a 1 month to 2 month window. I know that may be too long for some industries, but in mine I feel like that's enough time, because you need to take into account they could have had a personal situation come up. So I always think about that, is we don't ever want to be breaking up with someone or sending an aggressive email because we do not know what's going on in their personal life, and we need to be respectful of that. Even though I think just all my prospects that go silent just suck. Honestly. No, I'm joking. People that are live, this is entertaining, right? But I have to stop for a second and think, like, they have families, they have personal lives. So be persistent on the follow-up. Be quirky in a sense that you're saying, I know that I'm probably annoying you, but this is my job, is to be here for you. And then have someone else on your team reach out and see if it's effective. It has been for me. It hurts a little bit that they're responding to somebody else that they've never met, but I'm just happy to know that I can bury that and move forward. So, does that help at all?
So when do you
So my rule is 2 months. I have to put a mark on it, because if I don't, I will be 2 years later and they're still in my pipeline in HubSpot, and I'm like, yeah, they're coming back, and they're not. So you need to find out for yourself what that timeline looks like. I think 2 months is healthy, because if they have personal things happen, I think 30 to 45 days is good. At that point, it's time to engage again. Yeah.
Yeah, and so what I hear too is from you is you have to be willing to be vulnerable to the customer, to really ask them what happened here.
Yes.
And what went wrong. And, you know, sometimes in sales, we really try to get the rules of engagement early on in the process, where we know what could go wrong here. If something goes wrong, what would it be? What would the obstacle be? So you can try to mitigate risk as much as you want. And if you still had all affirmatives up until this point where they went silent, being vulnerable and really letting them know, hey, you know, I think that's a great strategy. And I really appreciate the perspective of, you know, being vulnerable and, you know, not wanting to break up.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's awesome.
How about for you?
So-
Your experience?
Everything Cristen said, and that happens, right? Like, it's part of sales. I think what you want to do, and I can only say like what I would do, and what I do. I'm a millennial. You got to be honest with yourself, right? Like you always want to get better, and you need to go back and look at that opportunity and say, you know, what happened, right? Because something happened. Maybe, and here's where it gets really hard, because a lot of people say, oh, you know, like they just got sold by another company, or screw them, they were never going to buy, whatever it is. No, you got to go back and say, like, did I pitch an NDM, right? Did I pitch someone who can't buy and was just, like, people like to feel important. NDMs tell you they can purchase and they can't. It's on to you to make sure they can. You know, did I, you know, not properly qualify when I talked to them, and it turned out what I was selling, and the benefit that I was selling of our product was not really what was the outcome that they wanted. Like, you just got to be honest with yourself, go back, look at it, and then move on. If you just harp on every guy who goes dark on you, or every girl who goes dark on you, like you're not going to be cut out in sales, you're going to burn out. You have to be able to move on. Everyone's not going to buy. People are going to lie to you. People are going to have things in their life that just come up. Your job as a salesman is to work through that and find the deals.
It's awesome. Sales is definitely an emotional, it's psychology. It's a game of psychology, and you got to keep your psychology in the game.
Yeah. To that point you just mentioned, some piece of feedback I got was never
Can I
taken.
hand this up to you?
I
Don't
can
make
speak
this old
louder.
lady get up. Come on, man.
I can stand up.
Slide back up.
Hey, so one piece of feedback I got was never take a no from somebody who can't say yes, kind of what you said earlier. So to that point, if you're talking to a client, they say no. You know, what do? Do you go around them? Like how do you handle that? Because I feel like that could get really awkward in some situations.
Yeah. It's a great question. Thank you, guys.
So there's no like silver bullet on like how do you handle it. Every situation's different. You know, I think a lot of how you handle it will be determined by what you actually diagnose as the reason why they went dark. But for me, like the way that I handle that kind of stuff is, again, just being human, right? And you can reach back out to these people after they go dark, and in your emails, you don't have to get aggressive, right? Depending on what kind of rapport you built with this person, you can totally be like, hey, look, like, I thought that there was a lot of synergies between our products. I totally get that, you know, it's a competitive landscape out there, and you know, maybe we weren't the best solution. You know, I would just like to learn, for my own benefit, you know, what was it that, you know, made you choose to go with someone else, or why were you not interested? And you know, that email's not gonna get answered every time, that voicemail's not gonna get answered every time, but you'd be surprised how frequently people will reach back out and be like, hey man, like, it wasn't your fault, you know, it's not gonna go through for Q1, you know, let's revisit in 6 months. Again, a lot of times people aren't gonna answer, they're still gonna go dark, but at that point you did your best, right? Like, you tried.
I guess my question more specifically, if you find out that they're not the economic buyer, right?
Oh, sorry, totally missed the question. If they're not the,
Still did a good job, though.
sorry.
No, that was great. No,
If they're not the DM, right? You pitched an NDM. It depends on the organization that you're selling into and how closely you know, they know the decision maker. If it's a big organization, and odds are, you know, they're probably never going to meet, I go straight to the DM. Don't even mention that I talked to the NDM. If it's a smaller org, and I got a no from an NDM who probably knows the DM and they might have even talked about my pitch, then I'm going to be a little bit more delicate. I might wait a little bit for it to cool off and then reach back out to the DM and be like, hey, so-and-so said this wasn't top of mind. I wanted to reach back out and see if anything's changed. But yeah, there's no structure for this kind of thing, but you just go with your gut, right? And if it's a small org, you want to be delicate. If it's a big org, odds are they're never going to talk to them. So, just start it fresh. And that's a big thing to consider before you kick a business out of your pipeline is, right? All right, I sent 5 emails to this person, left a voicemail, got nothing back. Do I lost this, or am I just barking up the wrong tree, right? That's something that I consider every time before I kick a business out of my pipeline is, am I even talking to the right person, or am I wasting my breath? And if the answer is yes, you're talking to the right person, then they're not interested. And if the answer is no, then you consider what you need to do.
Can I ask you a follow-up question?
Yeah.
So, how do you not know, or how did you not know early on that this person wasn't in the economic buyer?
Yeah, I guess to his earlier point, sometimes they will say that they have certain decision-making capabilities, and then as you go
Got it.
further down the line, you realize that they don't. Or that it's
So they say that, and do you ask them who else though is involved in that decision, and they still okay, yeah, that's kind of I mean, for me, and I'm going to let you speak to this too, but for me, I feel like if that comes up, that's a red flag for me right away. And if I let them know, look, in the event of death or separation, something happens to me or something, I'm serious, I say it, I'm from South Philly. I mean, that's what in the event of death, not your death, I'm just saying. No, but, I need to understand, my company's putting forth resources to bring our value proposition to your company. So if that's happening and something happens to you, which I've had happen in very complex deals, and I tell them that, who else do I need to be talking to? I'd like, if we're gonna have a mutually beneficial relationship, let's talk a little bit about that. And I think that's where it's really about being honest. You're mitigating risks, like he said, it's never gonna go away, but that's a red flag for me when somebody won't tell me who else is involved. That's just my
Yeah, I agree with that. And I also had this happen today, and it was devastating. A large opportunity, a wonderful new client, and not taking into account that there are outside people that influence the buyer, with not even in the organization. So this may not pertain to all of you, but something to keep in mind is that the relationships that they have established with alternative individuals. So in our industry, the financial advisor, the health benefit broker, those things are going to influence the sale. So I'm talking to the decision maker. I've got the founders of the organization, but the CPA comes in and says, I'm your financial advisor. I know best where your money should go. Never once talked to the financial advisor. Devastated. So now I've got to back up and resell to the individual that personally I don't think deserves my time. But I had to stop myself in that frustration and realize that, and by the way, I'm not from Philly, I'm from the South, and I got all sorts of pissed off. So imagine if I was from Philly, what would have come out. But I'm happy that Philly's making me more tough, I appreciate it. But I got really aggravated, and then I realized there's no point of me making a point to him that I don't need him, because at the end of the day, the only way that I'm gonna get this client back is to make him understand why he needs to tell them they need to invest in Beyond Pay, in our solution. I worked too hard on that deal to lose it to that, but they never once told me that their financial advisor would step in, so that was really upsetting because I had 8 people at the table, for God's sake. So with that being said, it was going back and realizing that I had to resale, but also making it clear to him that he's not my focus, the client is. And if he's a good partner or financial advisor, then he's also going to think that the client is more important than his personal opinion. So it happens. I have HR directors tell me that they're the decision maker. I have CFOs tell me they're the decision maker. Sometimes they are, sometimes they're not. But at the end of the day, if someone tells me that they are and they end up not being, I have no problem going around them. And if it offends them, then you shouldn't have been dishonest with me. And if we end up not getting the deal, I wasn't getting it anyways. So that's the way I look at the opportunity. If you were gonna lose it because they went silent, then sorry if I hurt your feelings by going to your boss. And sometimes it's helpful to reference that you did speak to them, because then, I mean, I've heard people say that they make a cold call and they'll say that you're returning someone's call to get through the gatekeeper. That's not cool. You need to be honest. That is really crappy, because if you get on the phone with that person and they never want to talk to you, you've just laid a really bad foundation. Same thing goes with communicating with the person above or around the individual that went silent or that screwed you over. Is reference them, because then you're holding that person accountable, not shooting them down, but saying, hey, I talked with Ashley. She's been great. She gave me information on you guys. Do you think that we could help you? Then you're showing that you really have done your research, that you have engaged with the organization, and hopefully they're more likely to get back to you. But I'm all about going around that person if you need to, and if it feels right. Listening to your gut is more important than anything, like Justice said.
Love the end around. Love the end around.
So I'll share a deal that went dark on me, and it was really, really hard pill to swallow. So my last business, GuestNet, we were a sponsored Wi-Fi network, which traded engagement for free Wi-Fi connectivity in small businesses, mainly in the healthcare space, so doctor's office waiting rooms. You watch a short video in exchange for a set amount of free Wi-Fi while you were waiting. So we were negotiating a deal. It was maybe a 4 or 5 month deal. It was it would have made our business. My co-founder and I, at this point, like, we had, controlling share, overwhelming majority of stock, and we're talking about, by the end of year 1, multiple 7-figure deal, and by the end of year 3, a multiple of 8 figures. And we go through, every hoop that we need to jump through, right? We find our champion within the organization, and we get the champion to work us up to the C-suite. And we're pitching the CFO, and it goes great, and our product, there's tons of synergies. And we get the meeting with our champion, the CFO, and the CEO, and it goes great, and they love us. And then we go back and forth on several economic, minute factors of the deal. And at this point, my co-founder and I are looking at each other like, yo, is this actually about to happen? This would be crazy. And then they go dark. And they go dark for a month and a half. And then they get bought by their biggest competitor. And the reason they got bought by their biggest competitor is because they took our deal, and it was directly compete. So they were a legacy business. They did a lot of print ads, and there was a competitor that built a $100 million runway doing the same thing but digitally, and that was what we did. We did digitally. So they took our deal, leveraged it, and then increased their price when they got bought out a month and a half later. Half a month after that, we shut down. So that was a tough deal, right? They went dark on us. And there was very little that we could have done to see it coming, right? Like, no way. The whole time we were talking to them was, the reason they wanted to do the deal was to compete with these people, right? And we had the perfect solution for them to do it. It happens. And there's no real way around it. And you just gotta learn from it.
It's a very powerful story. Thank you for sharing that. Everett.
Yes.
One comment / question on the going dark. Just also, so far, I'll often just play ignorant a lot. And I've had deals that were, somebody just goes dark for 3 or 4 months, and then that need suddenly just becomes really urgent, and then the sales process just seems to go amazingly fast. So I just wonder how playing ignorant has worked for you. But my other question is just, sometimes you really early on in the conversation, you're essentially almost having this heart-to-heart with the prospect. They just spill their guts on all their problems, but then they almost solution jump, where it's just like, you're trying to process everything they just laid out, and then they're just like, oh, so how much does it cost? So I'm just wondering how you sort of handle, almost slow a prospect down, or handle the jump to solution or jump to a conclusion that they may try to do.
Thank you.
I'll get up now. Tell me more of what you mean from the playing ignorant when they're quiet for 3 to 4 months.
Yeah, I mean, it can be anything from just sort of like the monthly, hey, wanted to see how things were going,
Yeah,
and if you had a
yeah.
chance to,
Yeah.
yeah.
So I'm more aggressive. If I spent time on you and you're gonna go silent on me, I don't have time to keep thinking about you. And that's the way I look at it. Again, let's leverage the concept of dating. It's effective here. You're talking with someone, they're into you, and then all of a sudden they don't respond to your text message, and then you call them, they don't call you back after you leave a voicemail. Are you gonna keep at that? At some point, you're gonna tell yourself, I've gotta move on. And that's the way I look at my opportunity, is I have to put a deadline on these things. So for a while, I do the whole just touching base. Oh my gosh, you guys, I look in thesaurus of different ways to say touching base. I say following up, touching base, just seeing how it's going, circling back, so annoying. Like, and at some point I'm like, I can't write this again. So I have been doing the 1, 2, 3, which I'm not doing the whole, some people are doing the a heavy object fell on you and you're not able to get out from it and that's why you're not emailing me. I don't really care for that so much. So I've been sending the 1 is you're no longer evaluating. 2, you found someone that makes you happy. 3, you want to re-engage. People are responding back with a number and then we're breaking up, so to say. And it's really, so I think there's putting a timeline on it. 3 and 4 months may be perfect for you guys. For me, I just had to say 2 months because I did have deals in the pipeline for a year. It was disgusting because I just refused to let go. So, yeah.
Can't be.
On my
sales.
people, I know, on my fake people. They're not even thinking about me, but I think about them. So, yeah, so I think doing that is really healthy for a certain amount of time, and then at some point you have to be honest with yourself because you're too valuable. I think that's a big piece of it, is realizing how valuable your time is, and expecting a mutual respect will change the way that you follow up with your prospects.
Awesome.
And remember, people, we're talking about a mindset. This is buyers influencing buyers. So this is a mindset. It's not really off topic, I think, what we're talking about. It's really having the mindset to influence, you have to be in the game. And in order to do that, you have to know these psychological techniques. So I'm really, really impressed with the level of play that you're doing in your sales. Let me get to Alex and then I'll go to Mark.
You're gonna make this old lady get up, ain't you?
No, stay there.
Okay.
My annoying voice can. So I guess the question is on the same topic. It's interesting because is the term of keeping the love alive or how to stay in touch. We always say marketing's job, but it's really sales. And they'll like say, here's the link, here's whatever. That's really not effective. How do you? A lot of people have the priority, so they look at your organization, they look at yours, and then they engage with you guys saying that's amazing. But then there's 8 other amazing things as well, but they're engaged with you because they're engaged with you. So keeping the love alive means that it's not a priority for them, but they realized it later. So how do you stay in touch with them until they make it a priority? Because you can't blink harder, you can't say things harder. So how do you figure out, rather than staying in touch, how do you stay connected to know when the timing is good? It could be a year, it could be 2.
So that's a very relevant question to me. A large part of my day I spend trying to juggle the long play customers with the people that we need right now. Because we're a very young company. Like I said before, we haven't launched. We don't have a website. You can't read about us. All you can see is our team on LinkedIn, and then you get an email from me smiling. And we're in this process of a pilot, right? Like as most software's first step into the real world, and so we need customers for the pilot, and we need customers who can close next week or yesterday. At the same time, you don't want to burn the people who might be a customer in 6 months, but for one reason or another, they don't pilot. What we're offering isn't top of mind right now. Whatever. So what I do, I didn't turn it off. I find that if you write quality outreach, for the most part, right, and I sell into an industry where it's relatively easy to find the right contact. It's relatively easy to get the right email address for them. It's really, really hard to get their attention. These are people who get a lot of emails, cold outreaches. But I find that I can stick apart from the rest of the junk that gets sent to their email, templates that, just have the name changed and aren't relevant. I'll get a response for probably about 80 to 85% of the emails that I send. And that response might be no. A lot of the pitches that I do is, look, we don't pilot, right? Like, we're a big established business. We're gonna be your second customers. And from there, it's great. If it's cool with you, as more information becomes available about our pilot, as the data comes out there, I'm gonna shoot it over. And then we'll touch base in about 4 months, if I don't talk to you prior, and we'll see if this is something that you'd like to re-explore. So you send like an article that comes out that helps your case. You send a tweet by a thought leader in your industry. You send value, right? Link to a webinar that you think would be interesting. You don't just shoot out and say, hey, I was wondering if it's better now. You're still building this relationship, right? So there's all these ways to do soft asks. And then there's appropriate times for hard asks. But in the interim, right, when you're nurturing a lead, hit them with value, right? Send them something that you thought they'd find interesting. Don't even ask for a call. Just say, hey, I saw this, thought of you. You'd be surprised, how that pays off down the road.
That was exactly what we do. It's powerful. And I think also when you engage in empathy, then when you come across stuff, you'll naturally think of that client or that prospect. So that happens to me. I'll be scrolling through and I'll see something and I'll go, oh my gosh, Joe would love this. And so I send it to him, and I honestly am sending it to him because I just want to share it with him. That's it. And if he responds back with something, great, but I don't want him to think of me as someone who is sending it just because I'm prospecting or I'm trying to re-engage. I genuinely just thought of him. Also, something that I find has been helpful is when they say they're not interested, say, I would like to touch base with you. There's that word again. If someone has better ones, please share. But I would like to touch base with you or reconnect. I'm thinking June, or let's say now. So I'm thinking August, because you're quite swamped and we're not really a top priority. I'm gonna go and send you a calendar invite for August 3rd. So that way we remember to re-engage. I'm just gonna reach out at that time, and if it's not good then we'll push it out to October. No harm, no foul. I rarely have them say no to that, because they don't care about August. We're in May. And when August comes, which it's here before we know it, you have the reminder to call them. Obviously have it in your CRM to remind you to be following up with them. We use HubSpot. Salesforce is amazing also. But I like sending a calendar invite because then they feel obligated to it. And there's something powerful in that if it's in there. Even if they don't accept, it's still lingering as that annoying gray bar that they're obligated to engage with you. So try some of this.
Awesome. Mark.
Yeah, thanks for the input, and you did take the words out of my mouth as far as just keeping a relationship alive.
Thank you, my friend.
Thank you. And yeah, it doesn't, in fact, I avoid being salesy at all. I don't even ask for anything. It's just, hey, just thought of you. And it's something that would be interesting to them, because they know, The other thing I do is old school, because I'm an old guy, is I have cards. So they're like, they're just regular kind of birthday-ish kind of cards, but they're New Yorker cartoons, so they're kind of classic. They're fun, and I just send them, and people aren't used to getting, just a card, and I say, hey, just was thinking about you, whatever, and they get a chuckle, and that works great, because when I do call them, they're in a good mood. So, oh yeah, I got that was pretty funny, thanks, So that's another way, but when it's dead and I know it's done, that's a perfect time for referrals, because if I, engage and have the empathy and it didn't work out for whatever reason, it's like, hey, you know what, it's been great working with you. I completely respect and appreciate that it's just not the right time for you. But you know what, could you help me? And right away, they're like, sure, what can I do for you? Because they feel bad. And that's when I ask, is there other colleagues that
Capitalizing on guilt there? Yeah.
Pretty much. Yeah. Welcome to the world.
Let's call it what it is.
Yeah, exactly. But, they want to help, right? Because they want to help. And they might refer me to a colleague or a company, or it's just a contact, that now I can start a new relationship with someone else where it's not a cold call.
Yeah.
Again, my buddy Donna, said, connected. So high.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's mine.
Whoever here, who else, there you go.
Hi, I had a question. So going back earlier into the sales process, I guess let's say you meet a prospect at a trade show and that prospect asks you to follow up with them in a few months and you do, and they immediately put you in touch with procurement. I actually had this conversation with somebody before the event started. One, how do you navigate through procurement and create a value stream for them? And two, what do you do about the fact when they kind of stop you in your tracks from forming any internal relationships with the stakeholders? So I guess I want to know how you deal with procurement.
Well, yes, we needed 2 mics. Mark, get on that.
So I'm probably not the best person to answer this question. I've never sold to a business that has procurement. I spent the early part of my career selling to small businesses. So you got mom and pop, you get them on the phone, they make the decision. And it's kind of the same sort of thing that I'm doing now is I sell straight to the C-suite or to at least the EVP level or director. And these guys are usually one step removed from the person who can say yes. So I mean, just my strategy with those people, right, is to present our solution in a way that is going to make them look really good when it's installed, right? Like, I'll even go back to the deal that fell through, right? Our champion worked us through, probably not the best example because it didn't close, but it was a really big deal. Our champion worked us through, and one of the first questions that I asked him was, so say this works, what does that mean for your career? And he said, I would be set, right? If this works the way that we're talking about, I'm going to be, like, my next 2 or 3 years is going to be like a cakewalk. And once you can have that kind of buy-in, you'd be surprised at how easily the other meetings come. So I can't answer specifically to procurement, but really what I would say is just incentivize the gatekeeper or the bridge troll, whatever version you like, in a way that makes them really, really motivated to push you through. Because a lot of things die along the way before they even get to the person who can say yes, would be my best advice.
It was helpful.
But now every time I talk to a gatekeeper, I would envision a bridge troll.
That's what I always, I just live it like so polite.
Like,
makes
I'm
it
not
easier for
letting
you
you
to talk to
through.
them, right?
I hope they don't see this video.
Yeah, this is all sorts of bad, this live feed, I love it. So that's exactly it, is making them realize the impact that they're gonna play, and we're actually in this situation right now as we speak. One of my teammates had brought an opportunity to the table, and the person that we're talking with was a manager of his team of over 100 employees. So he's not someone that's an administrator in a role to make a decision in regards to payroll, workforce management. It's a huge decision. And so he actually gave our information over to the director of HR, but it took like, I want to say it was like 6 or 7 follow-ups before he finally did. And we were persistent in that. And I think that's a huge piece, is that person knows that they're the decision maker. They expect you to just fall off the face of the planet and stop holding them responsible. But if they came to you and said that they were interested, or if you were handed off to someone that doesn't know why someone would say that to you, you have to be persistent. There's that stat out there that the majority of sales reps fall off after the 4th touch. And my team, we're all about getting to the 17th, 18th touch, because that's where the magic's gonna happen. And it sucks because we want it happening on the 1st and 2nd touch, but that is not life, because the buyer is way too exposed to options. And so just constantly engaging, and then also making them realize, like Jesse said, that they're gonna look real good to their company, which is what we did for this individual. He now, the director of HR, who's more powerful in that role than a lot of directors of HRs are in their organizations, she keeps thanking him. Like the whole call, she's like, thank you for doing this. We'll say his name is Bob. Thank you, Bob, for bringing this to the table. Bob, I had no idea Beyond Pay existed if it wasn't for you, and they're going with us, and it's because of him. And so now he gets to walk around with that clout of, I did this for this company, and this company is going to triple in size, and they plan on becoming an enterprise level organization real quick. So I think that's the piece, is making them realize how important they are in that. I don't know if that helps with answering your question at all.
I guess my question was geared more towards, let's say you meet your champion at a trade show. you're in touch with your champion for the next couple of weeks, you get on the inside, they tell you who those decision makers are. But first, you got past the procurement game. And that
So they
person-
tell you up front that you
that
have to deal with
person, yeah, that
procurement.
person that's making the vendor selection won't allow me to talk to her because she's one step away from the stroke of the pen and the contract being signed. And this person wants to commoditize and minimize my value proposition into a little box and make me the same as every other vendor out there. So how do you build value for that person? How do you get out of that procurement hole?
I'm quite similar to what Donna's saying. She doesn't play that. And I think there's, it depends on the organization. There are times when I'll say, that's not the way we do business. Our values are not aligned. The way that we do business is not the way you do business. I have done so many RFPs and they suck. And if I do an RFP, I'm not gonna win the deal because they've already made up their mind.
Exactly.
They're strictly sending it because they have to do due
It's
diligence.
a market exercise.
And it sucks, yeah. It's, I did a 48 pager and I'm an idiot, but I was hungry for that opportunity, so I took it. We've all been there. And it was really stupid. I wasted 2 weeks when I could have been helping other people on that group, which I want to say their names so bad, but I'm not going to because we're live. So that was shut off, I would say it. But I went through that process because that's what they asked me to do. What I've learned from that is asking them for something in return. If I'm doing this for you, then when are we setting up this meeting? Yeah, when is that next step happening? Because I cannot give you my time because I have the people that need my time that are ready to make a decision and I need to be there for them. So if I'm gonna take this time to be here for you, then what do you need from me? And what can I expect from you to give me back when I give you this piece? And that's the way I do RFPs now, because I have been screwed over so many times on RFPs and if you've never done one, it's horrible. And a salesperson with our creativity and our desire to like be out and moving and doing, to fill out a 12-tab Excel spreadsheet with thousands of, yeah. I like want to send them a bill for like taking years off my life. So when that camera shuts off, I'm going to say their name, I'm going to give you their numbers. Yeah. Well, yeah, that's right, we are in Philly. Take care of them real quick. Does that help?
No, that makes sense.
Yeah, I relate all too well, yeah.
Yeah, and I think, you're always, what I'm hearing from both of you is you're always gonna have to be respectful. Because if they're doing their due diligence, if the current vendor that they're working with doesn't pan out, that's why they're getting their backups in there, right? They're making sure that they're understanding who you are, the viability. So you do want to ingratiate them to some degree. And you want to be polite and you want to be very professional. You never separate from your integrity. And knowing that they might come back. They might come back. And so, but you still say the things that you said. Here's where I am, but I'm not, you have to decide as a sales rep, he's on the phone, so he's not even hearing me, but you have to decide as a sales rep how much time you want to dedicate to a prospect that is not engaging you across the stakeholders. And that's where you come in with what you guys were talking about in the very beginning, those first 2 and 3 calls. Your interpersonal communication skills are going to be able to influence whether they're going to, lean into you and take you through the sales process from stage 1 to stage 3, 4, 5. They're going to be honest with you. They're going to tell you along the line, there might be another product that is going to solve for Y better than yours solve for Y. You're mitigating risk by being the best you can at empathizing with them and being human with them. And that's kind of like, I think, the vibe that we're feeling here is that, we're mitigating the risk and being the professionals regardless if they step off of, engagement for whatever reason because they have other stuff going on. Any other questions before we move on to the next question? Because this is some powerful, fun stuff. Jeff? Okay, good. So, I think we're talking about these, but like when you're interviewing for this stuff, what differentiates, what are the competencies that are really differentiating sales reps that you're going to know that they're going to be able to finesse the buyer and influence the buyer through the sales process?
So I've been around like a lot of salespeople in a relatively short sales career, and there's no real one like personality trait or character type or whatever that makes for a good salesperson. For every time you say, oh, you need to be a qualitative salesperson, there's someone out there who's a challenger and just crushes it, right? For everyone who's a challenger sales style, there's somebody else out there who's more like a slow play, friendly sales, and they do really well. So it's really about like, figuring out what it is that you do well in the sales cycle and playing to that strength. And you try to look for that in people that you're hiring. I would say what separates the top salespeople, regardless of their sales style, from everyone else, is they adjust the value to the client, to the prospect. So, and I'm not saying that by any means I'm a top salesperson, but part of my sales methodology is, right, I can, if I'm qualifying correctly in my calls, I can identify out of the 4 big benefits that we offer, the 2 that will be the reason they buy if they would buy. And those 2 are going to be different for every prospect that I'm talking to. Some people are going to buy because we speed up payment. Other people buy because we end discrepancies. Other people buy because fraud, waste, and abuse is at a whole new level and our solution solves it. Other people buy because they can use our product as a source of lead gen. If I'm qualifying correctly, by the time I'm done asking them questions and learning about their business, I'll have identified the 2 reasons, which would be, what carries, the 2 outcomes that are most relevant and important to them, which will be the decision-making factors on the deal. And I won't talk about anything else. And so I think that's what really separates the good salespeople from the mediocre ones, is they know that everyone's different and their job is to find out what it is relevant and passionate and the particular prospect is passionate about, and then being able to adjust their pitch to that and do it well. And if you can do that, like there's nothing that can stop you.
Yeah, what I hear you saying is really good listening skills.
You gotta listen.
You gotta be able to...
And you gotta ask the right questions.
And questioning, yeah.
And you also have to make people feel comfortable enough with you that they'll give you the answer.
That's right.
Like a lot of people, at the end of the day, people buy from people they like, and they also buy from people who are great. And you have to make them comfortable enough to be honest. And when you're asking these qualifying questions, you need honest answers. Because if you're then going to go sell to what they're telling you, and they, like, I'm just going to answer, like, it's not really what I care about, they're not going to care about what you're selling. So it's really important to, build rapport if you can, make them like you, ask the right questions, and then listen.
Yeah, and I think the question part is important. It's how you phrase the questions that really matters. Like it's if the questions are you-centric or your company-centric, where it's biased to, you're kind of like biasing the answer, right? But if you're asking them about their business and it's focused on them, that's when the empathy and the connection's gonna happen.
Well, a lot of people also, they'll ask the right questions.
Some sales reps, I'll stop hogging Cristen. Some sales reps will ask the right questions and then they won't listen. Right? So they'll ask the question, they'll get the answer, they'll hear what they wanted to hear, and then completely miss an opportunity to be like, okay, well, hold on, let's dig deeper. Like, do you really care about that, or is that just something that you've been told you should? Right? Like, you have to be honest with yourself, especially when you're evaluating a meeting.
Yeah, that last part is exactly it. We talk about that all the time. Is you can ask the question and it can be great and then go, yay, she cares. But then afterwards, if you go, okay, great, and you start talking about your product, it just instantly changes the mood of the conversation. Also, in addition to that, you said all of that perfectly, is the finding individuals that know the difference between patience and persistence. There is a fine line, and listening to your gut is a huge piece of what we do. So oftentimes, I'll have someone from the team say to me, should I call, should I email, like what should I do right now? And sometimes I'll give them the supportive answer, other times I'm like, what do you think you should do? And their gut is almost always what I think that they should do. So there's a fine line between patience and persistence. You can piss someone off because you're just overkill, or you can be so patient that they forgot about you. So I think finding individuals that can engage in that understanding of people and being able to understand how to communicate effectively, precisely, and know the difference between patience and persistence. That is key, and learning that in my sales career over the last 4.5 years has been vital. There's a time to push it, and there's a time to lay off, and having effective communication is a big piece of that.
Do we love these guys?
Yeah.
Love you both. So we're gonna get ready to wrap it up. Does anybody have any questions right now that they want to pose to the
What influences you? So as a buyer of partners or as an organizational leader, as a sales leader, what influences you? What catches your eye? Knowing all the tricks of the trade.
So, as a salesman and also someone who has been sold by Cristen, I buy from people I like, and I buy from people who are going to make me look good. So part of the way I tricked the founders to hiring me at this new gig is I told them I would do anything, and I would learn really quick, and I just wanted to be a part of it no matter what.
Where is he? Did you hear that? One of our founders.
He heard it. One of the founders over there. And immediately after that, I just kind of got everything that needed to get done, but they didn't have time to do. Rightfully so, they were busy on important things. Part of that was finding a payroll and HR service, and I've never done that. Like I barely even knew how to use QuickBooks. And so when I met Cristen, it was, all right, this is someone who I can work with, and this is someone who's going to be, I told her at the beginning, you're going to need to hold my hand. You're going to need to show me how to use the product. I'm going to need great customer support. And that's something that they followed up on. And we couldn't be happier with Beyond Pay. I looked great. I don't know, Chap over there might say something different. People are getting paid on time. And there's several other cases like that, just in terms of how we organize our business, where if I don't like you, I'm not going to buy from you. And if I'm not confident that you're going to make me look good, I'm not going to buy from you.
Yeah, and a big one of mine, like I get emails all the time that are really, really bad. And thank you, by the way, that was so nice of you to say that. Thank you. I did not ask him to say that, by the way, people.
Beyond this.
So what's kind of crappy about being a salesperson and being sold to is you expect that salesperson to do what you're doing. And when they don't, you're disappointed. So when I have a salesperson that I'm like, expect them to follow up with me and they don't, I'm really let down because I'm like, you could have done so much better. And then there's other times where we get awesome emails and I share them with the team and I'm like, we need to start doing this. These people are awesome. These emails are better. We need to take this route. I think what I'm constantly learning though is I love when someone is listening to what I'm saying and they're receptive. When I was on a demo the other day because I'm constantly looking to improve our company as a whole. And I made a comment about how I love something and they went on to the next slide. And I just felt like I was officially done with them because they didn't even engage back in recognizing what I found to be one of the top things and most important in their product. So they're not going to tell that to implementation. I'm going to have to repeat all that when we get there. So there's no point in moving forward. So I'm definitely not the best salesperson. I've been doing this 4.5 years and I'm learning every day. So I think a humble individual that wakes up super hungry every day, but is willing to recognize that they're not the best because you never will be. There's always someone better. That's what I expect from salespeople when I work with them. Is I expect them to not have all the answers, but know who does. Be a good resource. Be receptive. And also be persistent. Because there's nothing worse than being like, I hope this person gets back to me because I'm busy right now. And then they fall off the face of the planet. Yeah.
All right. Wow, I think that was awesome. It was a good time, right? Awesome. So thank you everyone for coming. I think